Redditors who cook. What's the biggest no-no thing in cooking? Never pour spices directly into a steaming pot on the stove. The spices will congeal in their containers from the moisture introduced. Instead, put the spices in a separate side container, then add to a steaming pot. Glass cutting boards. Like seriously, just GTFO. And in a similar vein, dangerously dull knives. I've seen some real bludgeons in other people's kitchens. No wonder they hate prep work. I have a small glass cutting board, but I don't actually use it for cutting. It's next to my stove and is my designated I need to set this spoon down area because it's easy to clean. That's all it's good for really. Chef for 10 years. Here's some good things to keep in mind when cooking at home. 1. Clean as you go. It minimizes clutter and mess and makes everything easier. 2. Sharpen your damn knives. Seriously, dull knives are dangerous as duck. 3. Blenders are not just for smoothies. Use them for sauces and your life will be changed. 4. Please stack your fridge appropriately so cross-contamination doesn't have veggies and fruit on top. Also, eggs is fine. Beef, fish, poultry, chicken juice will contaminate raw veggies so quick. 5. You don't need a duck in knife block. I'm a chef for a living. I butcher 10 to 20 ducks a week and I have 6 knives. Even that is just cause I'm very particular. Your average home chef needs 3 at most. A standard length chef knife, a paring knife, which most home chefs never use from what I've seen, and a medium sized blade for veggies can be nice. 6. Label and date when you open stuff and keep it near the front. Keeping it near the front is most important as it helps encourage you to remember, ah yes, I have this kale that I should use, before you open something else. 7. Olive oil can go bad. Lots of people think it can't, but it can. 8. Canned stuff isn't the worst, just mix it with fresh stuff. 9. Diversify what ingredients you're using. Most Americans and Europeans cook with the same 20 things. Every time you go to the grocery store, pick up a new ingredient and try it out. Beets. Amazing. Like mushrooms? Try oyster mushrooms instead of generic shiitakes. Like onions? Grab a leek. Seriously, change it up. 10. Wading into more professional territory, but try some fermentation. Lots of great stuff out there, but I'd recommend kimchi. If you wanna get serious, buy the Noma Guide to Fermentation and actually read it. Best $30 you'll ever spend. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Feeling like it's too hard or being afraid to experiment with stuff? Obviously don't try something totally new when you're cooking for guests, but don't feel like failing means you suck. If you mess up, learn from it and move on. It's not the end of the world. Hardest agree in this thread so far. I can't tell you how many dishes I've made that I had to hate eat because they turned out poorly or bland, but each one teaches you something important if you are willing to learn. My success rate at making new dishes is very high now because of all the failures. Don't let your baking powder get clumpy. Tiny rocks of baking powder ruin anything you bake. For the love of God, stop mucking about with whatever it is you're cooking. Unless it's something you specifically need to be mixing or stirring constantly, leave it alone. You'll never get proper color on things if they make more contact with your spatula than your pan. This is how I always duck up pancakes. They are so simple, but for some ungodly reason I have a compulsive need to try to flip them when I know that sheet shouldn't be touched yet. Edit. Yes, I know when it bubbles you flip it. I said I have a compulsive need to try to flip it, even though I know it's not time. If you start thinking about the first pancake as a sacrificial pancake, it should be much easier. For the first one, wait until you would normally flip, then make yourself leave it alone for another few minutes. Flip, then you can see if the pancake burnt or if it's much closer to perfect. Stoves can vary a lot when it comes to temperature, which makes it more difficult. Practicing like this should make it easier to adjust your mental clock when it comes to all pancakes in your future. Cutting with a dull knife. Get yourself a sharpener, even if it's a cheap one. Cranking the heat to reduce the cooking time will leave you with a burnt outside and an underdone inside. Can I give you my mother-in-law's number? You don't have to be polite. She is always on the run and never has enough time to cook, yet always insists on cooking meals that take 3x more time than she has available. So she shortcuts the duck out of every meal and they always turn out horribly. Just this weekend the family went to an apple orchard for most of the day and we were going to eat dinner at a nearby friend's house. Instead of doing the logical thing, like planning a dinner that doesn't need to cook all day or hell, something crazy like just ordering ducking pizza, she decides she wants pulled pork. So she throws the pork in the slow cooker and plugs it into a power inverter in their car and then leaves it in there for 5 hours, one of which was driving and 4 of which were with it parked in the parking lot with the ignition turned off and therefore no power to the inverter. Of course when we got to the friend's house this was all revealed to me. She was saying how the pork didn't cook and trying to figure out how we could quickly cook it. She said she thought it would just run off the battery in the car. Infuriating. My lazy ass learned the hard way to never use a pot holder that got wet to get a hot pan out of the oven basically renders the pot holder useless. Ended up burning my hand and dropping my food. Also, when baking bread, don't add cold water to a hot Pyrex that has been in there for a minute to make steam. I knew what was going to happen, but I did it anyway. Boom. Glass shards everywhere. Medium rare chick works for steaks, but not for H. Incorrectly storing ingredients. Seriously, you can get ill if you let raw chicken juice drip on your salad in the fridge. Then, cut meat and veg on separate boards. Cross-contamination is such a huge deal in cooking. Like no, you can't cut veg on the same board you just cut a raw steak on. You trying to make everyone sick. Edit. Okay. To clarify, steak wasn't a good choice for examples. Chicken is the more obvious one due to salmonella. And yes, if everything is being cooked right after, so long as everything is cooked to the right temperature, it's fine. Just be sure to wash each cutting board thoroughly and sanitize your tools. Do not mix hot cooking oil and cool sink water. I saw a girl burn the hell out of herself because she didn't listen to the home ec teacher. She threw her hot oil in a sink with some cool water running. Boom. Sprayed hot oil all over her arm and neck. Let your oil cool, folks. Don't grab something that is on the stove without a towel or some type of heat protection. Don't combine water and hot oil. If a grease fire starts, don't use water to try to put it out. Salt, a baking sheet, or a dry towel might work. If you don't have a fire extinguisher, don't season a liquid before reducing it. It will become too salty after you reduce it. Don't use a cold pan to sear something. Get the pan hot first. Better sear. Don't use extra virgin olive oil. When you're using high heats, it will burn. Don't cut meat immediately after cooking it. More juices will flow out. The meat will become drier. Wait a few minutes. Don't hold an object with your fingers extended when you're cutting it. You're less likely to seriously cut your fingers if you curl your fingers like a claw. Don't use a sharp knife on metal, like a python or steel counter, or glass or marble. Don't use a nice knife on anything other than food. A common offense would be opening a food package with it. Don't send a nice knife through a dishwasher. Don't leave a sharp knife in the sink. Don't leave a knife wet. Even ones claiming to be stainless will often rust if left wet. Don't follow a recipe too religiously. If it doesn't taste well to you, don't leave it because you followed the recipe exactly. Learned this the hard way. Don't throw fresh chili peppers into a hot pan unless you want to pepper spray the whole house. Never, and I mean never, panic. If you start a fire on accident, you need to be calm enough to know if you have to smother it, oil or grease fires, or grab the extinguisher. Panicking can get your house burned down. My mom fell asleep while making fries and woke up to a house full of smoke. She then threw a polyester blanket over the pot full of burning oil, which burned the whole kitchen down. Should have just put a lid on the pot. But now she got a brand new kitchen covered by insurance lol. Not seasoning anything. There is a reason pretty much every recipe including candy and ice cream includes salt, you morons. Still, don't overdo it either. Plenty of stuff is preloaded with heaps of salt. Don't burn the ramen plastic accidentally when cooking. One time when my parents left me home alone, I almost burnt the house down because I forgot to add the water to my ramen cup before putting it in the microwave. It didn't catch on fire, but the microwave still smells terrible 2 months later. Standing in the kitchen when I'm cooking. Get the duck out, don't get in my way. Don't try to catch a drop knife. Back away and let it fall. Edit, my first silver. Thank you, kind stranger. Edit 2, gold. Thank you, other kind stranger. If it has touched raw meat, it can't go anywhere near cooked meat. Never put oil in the pot when cooking pasta, as the sauce will just slip and slide away instead of sticking to the pasta. Don't leave epist in the water when it's stone. Using metal utensils on Teflon. Coated cookware cooking beef well done. Edit, not ground beef, lol. You got me there. At least not outside of burgers. You'll know what I mean. Cooking everything on the stove on high. I noticed people who don't really know how to cook always do this. Burning things on a pan isn't cooking. Cooking with unwashed hands. Using sugar to take the edge off a highly acidic sauce. Just put a damn carrot in it and let it absorb the acidity instead of covering it with a new flavor. Edit, add a peeled whole carrot and simmer it, then remove the carrot after cooking. If your oil is on fire, don't use water to extinguish it. Actually, even if it isn't on fire, don't put water in hot oil. The second most dangerous thing in the kitchen is a dull knife. The most dangerous thing in the kitchen is me with a sharpened knife. If you insist on standing in my way at every twist and turn. If you ain't cooking, get out of the kitchen. Keep an eye on your food. Never leave the kitchen. You never know what is going to happen. Also from personal experience, make sure you turn off all the burners when you're done. I got done eating and realized I left the pan with oil on a burner still. Luckily it was on low heat. I spent a half hour scrubbing the burnt oil off the pan. Never do your prep work as you go. Do all the prep work up front and your cooking experience will be so much better. Very true. I always prep everything before I start cooking. For Christmas dinner I prep everything the day before, so I can have a stress-free Christmas day despite being the chef. Remember, you can't get some stuff back after you add it. Go slow with seasonings, and likely, you can always add more, but you can't take it back. Don't let your food taste like ocean water. Don't press your burgers down as they're cooking. You're releasing all the juice. It'll give you a dry ass burger. There are such things as smash burgers, but I believe on those, you sheath them at the beginning before the fat has a chance to melt, so you're not mashing the juice out. Things that make food taste good: salt, fat, butter, spices, garlic, chilies. I can't tell you how often I eat food someone else has made, and it's like they've never heard of salt, and they think margarine is finial. So, if you ask yourself why does taste great when they make it, but not when I do, reference the above.